The Trojan Horse War, Part 2, Abyss, Chapter 3, Section 1.
I say again, Professor, the rat has hit the wall,
Rex heard through his earpiece. He was being escorted by a station security policeman, Tech Sergeant Malcolm, out onto the gravifloor-plated main hangar deck. Rex stumbled a couple steps, but the tech sergeant made the transition smoothly. "Here's the guy that can help you," Malcolm said, pointing to a short mechanic in the red cap and coveralls that all fleet mechanics wore. "That's 18. 18? Why do you call him that?" "Everyone does," Malcolm replied. "Just talk to him long enough and you'll find out." "Thanks a lot," Rex replied. "I don't want to take any more of your time." "Not a problem," Malcolm said, and headed back to the tube that led to the east docking ports. Rex pressed his throat mic. "Rat, this is the professor. I am almost ready." He smiled at the mechanic, who was just looking up from a laptop on top of a table that was wired to a long-range stealth fighter. "A Batwing, huh? I saw a special on those the other night on Weekday Wings. And they just got just about everything wrong," the mechanic replied. "What do you need, and please make it quick?" "Just one of those extra tall cargo movers. We have a VTOL docked to the east end, and we're going to be unloading it over at the cargo bay in about 20 minutes. Some last-minute items for the Admiral's boat." The mechanic pointed to a forklift holding a cargo container. Rex patted the mechanic on the back. "Thanks," he said, and jogged over to the forklift. "Don't scratch any of my planes or I'll take a blowtorch to your VTOL," the mechanic called after Rex as he got into the driver's seat on the forklift. As Rex maneuvered the forklift carrying the cargo container between two fighters, he pressed his throat mic. "On my way," he said. He drove it over to the wall and parked it as a cargo container was in front of the airlock door. "In place," he said through the throat mic. Hey, you can't just leave that there," the mechanic said. Rex jumped off the forklift and trotted over to the mechanic. "Excuse me, Master Sergeant, but you will address me as either Lieutenant or Sir. Is that understood? How about if my boot addresses your back to the academy? Get that lift out of my access lane." Rex didn't have to stall this guy for long, but he didn't think he'd be able to stall him much longer. The mechanic pushed his hat back a little, then marched past Rex toward the forklift. Rex grabbed the mechanic by the shoulder. The mechanic grabbed Rex's hand and twisted his arm around behind his back. Rex swung a leg and swept the mechanic's feet out from under him, and both of them fell to the hangar floor where they wrestled. Rex was stunned that he was actually getting into a physical brawl with an enlisted man. He'd known mechanics with attitude problems before, but this was ridiculous. Then Charlie's voice came over his earpiece. "Okay, we're in." By now, a couple other mechanics had run over and were breaking up the fight. A captain, probably the commander of the hangar deck, came marching out of an office on the far corner. "What is this? What is going on my hangar deck?" he barked. "I'm sorry, sir. Just a disagreement," Rex stammered as he tried to smooth out the legs of his flight suit. "The sergeant asked me to move my forklift from the access lane, and that's exactly what I'm going to do right now." Rex turned and jogged over to the forklift before anyone could say anything else. He jumped back behind the wheel, and while at least half the hangar crew looked on, he drove the forklift back around to the lane that ran behind where the fighters and other small spacecraft were parked. He had to stop twice to allow other forklifts to pass, once for someone laboriously pushing a cart for 450-gallon drums of lubricant. After looking around to make sure that no one was looking, Rex turned the forklift left and took it down a wide corridor past the service entrance to two smaller hangars before he got to the one he was looking for. The service entrance to this hangar was locked, but Rex reached into his pocket and retrieved the keys stolen from... The keys were gone. He searched his other pockets. He looked on the floor of the driver's area of the lift, then the seat, then the floor again. A pilot from the 351st and a mechanic assigned to the station came out of the service entrance of the hangar at the far end of the corridor. They gave Rex a funny look before moving on.
Professor, is everything all right? Break? We've been stopped for about 5 minutes now. We have a schedule to keep.
I know, Rex stammered. He jogged back down the corridor from the direction he'd been looking down at the floor for the whole time. If anyone found those keys, they'd turn them into the MP's or to the S2 shop because of the security code stamped on each of them. Rex turned onto the hangar and retraced the path of the forklift had followed all the way back to the airlock. He looked around at the place where he'd picked up the forklift and then the spot where he and 18 had had their brawl. He looked around. Where was 18? The sound of someone knocking on glass gave him his answer. At the back of the hangar was a row of maintenance offices. 18 was in one of them, knocking on the window and waving at Rex. When Rex met his gaze, 18 held up the keys and smiled. Rex charged into the office. 18 was alone, sitting behind a single cluttered desk. Rex turned the dial under the window, dimming it and rendering them invisible to anyone outside. He pressed the button that activated the electronic lock in the door. One way or the other, you're giving me those keys, Rex said. 18 chuckled and tossed the keys up into the air to himself. I know what you're doing with those keys, and I know where you're going. I'll give you the keys once we're both in the ship and once we've made a slight detour. I don't know what you're talking about, Rex said, stepping forward. If you want this thing to be kept a secret, you'll take me with you and take my short detour. I told 3 of my men to go open your crate in about, 18 looked at his watch, 5 minutes, if they don't hear from me. Professor,
what is going on?
Rat, something came up. I'm dealing with just...
Professor, are you reading me?
18 laughed again. I'm jamming any transmissions from this office. But I've been listening to you talk to those guys in the box for a while now. 18 brought an earpiece out from his ear. Rex could hear Charlie's tinny voice coming from it as well as the piece in his own ear.
Professor, come in. What's going on?
Rex sighed. Call off your people. I'll take you with me. Just tell me where we're detouring. I'll tell you once we're out of the hangar. And don't try anything once we're on board. You won't be out of the woods yet. If a certain someone doesn't get a transmission from me giving a prearranged signal, he alerts the S2 about what you're up to, and that'll put a stop to everything, 18 said, raising from the desk. Rex looked around the messy office for some sign as to the mechanic's real name, but there was nothing. Whether intentionally or not, the man practiced very good OPSEC, and he demonstrated a lot of ingenuity for a mechanic. As they left the office, 18 put on a dark gray flight jacket over his red coveralls. When they reached then he reached onto a shelf and grabbed a black satchel that he threw over his shoulder. Rex thought about searching him, but thought better of it and followed the mysterious mechanic back to where he'd left the forklift. I'm here, Rat. Everything is okay. I'm bringing you to the end of the maze, Rex said, taking a seat on the forklift. 18 used one of the keys to open the service door to the hangar, which clattered as it slid up, revealing a dark hangar with a sleek-looking craft half hidden in shadows. It was silver and dark blue and with tapered delta wings low and on its narrow aerodynamic fuselage. As Rex drove the forklift under the craft to the rear lower cargo bay, 18 climbed the ladder on the far side and used the key to open the hatch on the left side of the cockpit. Rex saw the lights go on inside the craft and a moment later the cargo bay doors opened and the loading platform lowered. Rex dropped the container holding 9 of the most highly trained commandos in the fleet onto the platform and backed away. 9 of the most highly trained commandos in the fleet, Rex thought, and they were nearly outdone by a mechanic.